Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. You are listening to Honest to God on AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. Super pumped to be here today. We've got a great episode, kind of a heavy episode that I think is going to be great though. I think it's going to be worthwhile. Everybody here has been here before, except for Sam. So you're going to host 5 fun facts here in a minute. We got Hannah, we got Sadie, we got Julian, and we got Sam. Everybody's a veteran but you, brother. Before we get started though, since you're the new kid on the block, big shout out to the new kids on the block from the 90s, late 90s. Yeah. Yep. You mind leading us in prayer, Sam?
Sure. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Lord, as we discuss this topic, help us act with charity and kindness, and let the Holy Spirit speak through us today, and let all of this be in your name. As you pray, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Awesome, Sam. Thank you so much. Let's get through this pretty quickly because I think we're going to have a lot to talk about today on a heavy topic, but I think one that is absolutely necessary and one that we need to dig into. Hannah, welcome back. It's been a long time.
Hi.
You only owe us, you know what? You owe us 2 fun facts because it's been a really long time since you've been on the show, so you've earned 1 back.
Okay, 2 fun facts. 1, I have worked at Publix for 5.5 years, basically, since I was 15. And 2, I have to get up at 4:30 a.m. to go run 2 miles with my RTC.
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Man, it's going to be late night.
Oh, yeah. It always is.
And you have adult freckles, which is fun. You have adult freckles. Most people, like I was covered in freckles with a kid. I don't have freckles anymore. My wife also has adult freckles. You don't see it very often.
I'm not going to lie. I had no idea what you were talking about. But
freckles when you're an adult.
That makes sense. Yes, I do.
It's good.
I get comments on them a lot.
I know,
I appreciate it because no one liked them as kids.
You've met my bride, right? She's covered in freckles.
Oh, yeah. She's beautiful.
My son is 11 and he really likes his freckles. And I did not like mine when I was 11.
He opened the door for me the other day.
Did he?
And I was like, I'm so proud of that kid.
Good. That's awesome. I don't even remember that. Was I there? I wasn't there?
He was trying to find you, so yeah.
But he still opened it for you?
Yeah.
Way to go. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good job, John Henry Jr.
Proud of him.
Yeah. All right, Sadie, what about you? You just owe us 1. You were just here.
My car that I drive is a year older than me.
Nice. I drove a 98 Silverado until about a year and a half ago. And I had to get rid of the Silverado. My 4-wheel drive transmission went out and I needed to have 4-wheel drive, and I could kind of tinker. I'm not super mechanical, but I could keep it running. But then when the 4-wheel drive transmission went out, that was super complicated. It was going to cost me more to fix it than the car was worth. I sold it. I bought a 2016 Fun 50, and it is falling apart constantly. It is so frustrating. Literally, when I came in here today, my door wouldn't close. It just wouldn't latch closed. Yeah. So I hope nobody's broken into my car while I was out there.
That would be bad.
Hold on to that old car. What kind of car is it?
It's a Del Sol. It's a Honda Del Sol.
See, those Japanese cars. Yeah. Which is interesting because I don't know. I will probably have to edit that out because this episode of Honest to God is brought to you by Kia, South Korean's finest Kia. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good. All right. Julian, what you got?
I guess on the spirit of South Korea, I would say that I've been to South Korea.
Have you?
I have, yes.
Cool.
And I went to Seoul, and I'm very concerned with the fact that the next World Youth Day is in Seoul because there's not a ton of space there. So.
Oh, really?
But
okay.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Big shout out to everybody who just got back from World Youth Day too in Portugal.
That's right.
It was really, really cool. I hear South Korea is much more pleasant than the alternative.
Probably. I have not.
You didn't go there? You didn't go that one?
No.
Okay, all right. That's cool. All right, what about you, Sam?
I've only owned cars that Ben has driven for a year first, or over a year.
Yep. First, it was a 89 Honda Accord.
Nice.
Then it was a 2011 Honda Civic.
Nice.
I love Hondas. Honda gang for real.
Yeah.
I miss Carl.
Me too.
I miss Carl too.
Yeah, Carl's a car. For those of you at home, listen.
Same age as Taylor Swift.
Yep, that's why they named it Carl.
Yeah.
That was the 89.
Only guy she hasn't wrote a song about yet.
Yeah. She wrote there's a whole album titled after that car. Yeah, which is really cool. 1989. Yeah. It was about Carl.
The original title was 1989 Honda Accord named Carl. But that didn't fit.
Every time you think she's singing some ballad about a boy, it was all Carl. He was a great car.
Yeah.
I just thought it was about me because I was born in '89.
I was born in 89 too.
Oh, look at
That was
that.
a great year.
She was probably singing about us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not Carl.
I mean, I feel like it was probably Carl. But. All right, so have you got 4 more?
No.
No, you're just going to
No.
refuse?
Yeah.
I'll make you a deal.
Okay.
You can refuse, but next episode, you got to.
You know what? You drive a hard bargain, but I'm gonna have to accept.
All right, next episode, you're going to give us 5.
Thank you, Sharks.
It's going to be great.
You're funny.
That was a Shark Tank reference. I
Yeah.
get it. Now I get it. Now I understand. Yeah. Speaking of which, Mark Cuban is going to be on our next episode of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is going to be great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So let's dig into the topic at hand today, which is. I mean, it's tentatively titled just sort of pro-life, but I really just want to open that up because what I don't want this episode to be is 6 people who totally agree on a political position talking about it as if it's a political position, right? I think we do a disservice when we're discussing this very serious topic, because just when I say the word abortion, we have all of these sort of strong feelings that come up, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but when I hear the word pro-life, when I think about the abortion, the anti-abortion movement, when I think about sort of the scourge that was Roe v. Wade and is now just the abortion industry and its presence, this great evil in our country, I immediately become defensive and start thinking of political talking points. And I don't want to do that because we're not having a show about politics right now. I want to have a show about people, right? This very serious evil that is so ingrained in our society, and the people that it affects, both the children that are killed, and the mothers and the fathers and everybody who is involved. And I'd love to open it up. I promise not to try to talk only to Sadie, but I'm super interested and really happy that we have Sadie here because you work full time, right, for a pregnancy aid clinic here in Atlanta. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you made some really great points. I think the biggest thing is people feel like a just anger towards this injustice that's happening, but you can't be directing that at the people that are going through it.
Right.
And so just to really remember to be handling it with compassion and care and kindness and love over everything.
Yeah, 100%. What does PAC do? Like,
so PAC offers free pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, but then mainly the biggest thing is just, connecting them to all the resources in the community, because there's just so much out there and nobody knows. So, we just connect them, and then, we're not just there for them, during the pregnancy, we're there for them pregnancy and beyond. So we stay in contact with the women that we help.
is there a overarching mission or anything that, I don't know, like what's your elevator pitch? You just did it a little bit, but in terms of like, who are you serving primarily? Are you connected in any way to the church? Is this a totally secular thing? What does that look like?
No, it's a Catholic mission statement, and so it's just the stance of pro-life to protect life.
So I have heard from the news media that pregnancy aid clinics are these really evil places that trick women, and you prey upon unsuspecting women to try to trick them into having children.
Yes,
and
I force them to give birth.
You force them to give birth, and that you, or maybe to expand it out, everybody, all of us who are pro-life, we're not actually pro-life, right? We're actually pro-birth, and then we don't care what happens because we think women are just vessels of reproduction or something horrible like that. Is that right?
No.
Why not?
Shocker.
What do you do on top of, because but to be fair, right, counseling is a big part of what you do, right? You have a lot of women who come in considering an abortion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean the women I do see that do end up getting abortions, it's a very, very painful road.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a lot of regret, and they come back to me and they're like, I really made a mistake.
Do you have people who come back?
I really do.
Oh my goodness.
Because I call and I check up on them. So
Right.
I think it is just the vast amount of people that come back and are like, I really wish I didn't do that. And they really just feel like it's almost like being pressured to even have the choice not that you want to do it, but just they want that choice available to them, because that's what's going on in the media.
What choice? I'm sorry.
They're taking away your choice to have an abortion. So in Georgia, it's 6 weeks. So the fact that most women don't find out till around 6 weeks, it's like crunch time. It's like 2 days.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And this is a stupid question, but so there's a 6 week, there's a ban on abortion after 6 weeks in Georgia?
Well, it's called the 6 week heartbeat law, but as soon as there's a heartbeat, so there could be a heartbeat at 5-4, 5-5.
Okay.
Usually it's around 6 weeks.
Okay. And that is since Roe v. Wade got overturned.
Yeah.
That went into effect in the state of Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay. From the sort of your pro-life, not pro-birth standpoint, can you speak to, like, if I come in, if I'm a young woman who comes into the pregnancy aid center and I'm counseled there and I decide to have this baby, do you just stop talking to me as soon as I've given birth? What does that look like?
No. I mean, for example, if my client needs to be connected to mental health resources, I connect her to that. We also have the PATH program, which is post-abortion treatment and healing. So we have that. But I mean, like I said, we stay in connection with the women. Like we do a due date call, whether or not they had the baby or not.
Oh, wow.
We check up on them to make sure, because they're not getting that at the abortion clinics. No one, when they go for a medical abortion, no one even calls to check up to see how they're doing. They don't get a follow-up.
Right.
Yeah.
Hannah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I went to the Unplanned movie premiere in Atlanta, and there was a woman who, like, after, like, they kind of wanted to get audience thoughts, and she stood up and she talked about how she actually went to get an abortion, and she followed through with it, and after she had this horrible, like, deep sense of regret, and she didn't know what to do, like, she said she was literally, like, suicidal. And so she went back to the place where she got the abortion. She was like, I need you guys, like, is there anything, like, y'all can connect me to? Is there anyone I can talk to about this? Like, I just want to know, like, was this the right decision? And they were like, they turned her away and said, that's not our job.
Right.
And this is somebody who was, like, telling them, like, she wanted to take her own life because of it. So that's a really big thing, is you have to realize, like, that a lot of these industries, the people working them don't have to be horrible people, but they're not helping with that side of things at all. That's if anyone says that, like, they're normally, a lot of people think they do, and they do not.
And I'm glad that there's been some emphasis here just early on in this conversation about who's often forgotten in this tragedy, and that is the women who get the abortions, right? The women, I was saying off air earlier, and I'm not proud of this, but I think this is something that I've struggled with, right? And maybe it's not maybe it's just me, but we see, okay, these are women who are killing their own children, and I have this very visceral reaction of, like, you're the bad guy, right? You're the bad guy because you're making this decision. I know that I'm wrong, but can somebody else spell out why I'm wrong? Yeah.
I would say, so, like, that was something that from a young age, like, I feel like I understood in a lot of ways, just, like, talking with like, young girls and young women. So much of that decision is educated to them. Like, it's taught to them that is what their choice, and that is what they need to be doing, and that they can't have careers, that their life is over, that a child means that they will never be able to find another guy who will be with them, or anyone. And so most of the time, I'm not saying all women, but most of them, they really have told themselves that this is their only option. A lot of people that I struggle a lot more with having an issue with is the doctors who perform it, or the political advocates for it, because a lot of women I know who, like, have thought about having an abortion, or, like, have had one, and, like, it's been more of a sense of regret. It's a lot of the doctors and politicians who push it as, like, this freeing, beautiful concept, and I hate it because I see it trickle down to now, like, my generation. That's all we are being told. That's all we're being taught. High schools, they push birth control. They push having sex and everything from a young age. Like, it's so ingrained in our community. And I'm afraid that now that you have all these big wigs pushing it, when's it going to stop?
Well, It is interesting to me how, I mean, I can even see the change in the past, I don't know, 15 years or so from when I was growing up, all the rhetoric was abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, sort of this Clintonian slogan on abortion, and that, no, abortion, obviously it's an evil, but it's a necessary evil sometimes. And you saw that even from sort of the pro-abortion side, who would say, like, listen, nobody wants to have an abortion, right? But sometimes we need to allow women to, and it seems like it has changed dramatically nowadays. We've got this whole, I mean, it was a hashtag shout your abortion that was trending not too long ago, and where it's almost like the idea is the abortion itself is empowering and somehow part of being like a authentic woman in some way. It's really gross.
So something with that, I actually was talking to Leah beforehand, one of my friends, about like, okay, like what should we say? What should we talk about? And it reminded me, I had this conversation with a friend on a road trip where she was like kind of like on the fence about it. She was like, but how am I supposed to tell people this? And I told her, like, I was like, when it comes to these arguments, anyone who makes the argument, oh, it's not a life, at that point, like, it is so much harder for me to argue with you. I would rather argue with somebody who has the standpoint that, yeah, it's a life, but I can take it. Because, like, the question is not when it's a life. It is a life. Like, there's scientifically, that's a fact that it's a life and it's living. The question is, when does it have value? That's the question that we should be arguing about. So I don't want to argue with people who are like, no, it's not a life. I'm not killing anything. No, you are, but if you're going to do it, stand by that and be like, yeah, I am killing someone. I think I can do it, though. I'd much rather argue with somebody on that
Well, that always
point.
has some philosophical integrity, right? Whereas the other end of the spectrum, which is, no, it doesn't count. It's not a person. It's not a person yet. That's not a scientific, like, answer.
At all.
That's an argument from emotion. That's an argument from, like, it doesn't make any sense, right? And I hear what you're saying, right? Obviously, it sounds more evil for me to stand up and say, yes, this is a life, this is a baby, but I'm allowed to kill it before a certain point because it can't feel pain or whatever the argument is. But at least that argument follows logically, right?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest difficulties when discussing this topic is how emotional it is. Like, I've noticed a lot as I've grown up that not every person is gonna be able to articulate an effective argument because at some level there's an emotion attached to it. And when it comes to abortion, there's so much emotion that is attached to it by a lot of people that it's very difficult to argue and to change someone's mind on at all. And it's agonizing to me as a person who is like, I want to find the truth. Let me talk to you. I think I know better than you, but if you can tell me why I'm not, just tell me. To realize that it's in the end, there are people who you can never change their mind on it.
Sure.
That sucks to me.
No, I agree with you. And one thing that I want to explore on this episode is not so much how do we win political debates, but how do we change hearts, right? How do we talk to real humans in real situations and really get at the heart of the matter? Because I think about this so much with my own conversion to the faith and my own sort of assent to a lot of the church teachings that I didn't have I didn't understand, right? Or I had an issue with early on, where what I realized I was doing is I was just trying to win arguments, and I wasn't actually thinking about why these arguments mattered and get to the heart of them. And so I'd kind of like to explore that a little bit. If you guys have any thoughts on that, like discussing the abortion issue, not from a political standpoint, but from hey, I love you, God loves you, like God loves your baby. How do we dig into that? What are your thoughts?
I wrote a paper on this topic, and I got into Thomas Aquinas and Martin Luther King Jr., who actually, in one of his jail letters, discusses natural law and St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas' take on natural law. And Martin Luther King was not Catholic, but referenced them the most and said that his church was doing a disservice in talking about the poor treatment of the African American community. And since Martin Luther King's death, there's been 20 million plus black babies aborted. That is a problem. Yeah. And if we look at just the natural law violation of that much death in just one community, I think that may start changing hearts.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Like, an injustice that's overlooked. Like, even if you are pro-choice, I do not know how this is not something that has been advocated against, is the fact that, first of all, Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood, which is one of the most well-known abortion agencies in the U.S., was a eugenicist. She was avidly against Catholic people, Jewish people, and Black people.
Right.
She wanted them extinct. And so Planned Parenthoods are actually strategically set up in low-income areas and neighborhoods.
Right.
And that is still true to this day. So it's obvious what she was trying to do. And even if the clinic workers now, which I want them to be humanized as well, like Abby Johnson, she's a great example. She ran a clinic for a long time and then became pro-life. Like, they're human people, but what Margaret Sanger did is still going into effect. So many low-income people are being pushed to abort their children. Right. And that's going to affect any community that is in it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of African Americans in lower income communities, as well as Hispanic people.
Well, and that's the second time that Abby Johnson has come up. And so I do want to give a big shout out to the movie Unplanned. I think you mentioned it earlier. And Sadie, you mentioned the book. I didn't even realize there was a book.
Yeah, I mean...
Can you speak? I mean, I assume that the movie is based on the book.
Yeah, it's just, she goes through her account on it. It's actually very powerful. I do recommend anyone to read it. She, like, goes over, like, you know, what to do if someone says, hey, I want to get an abortion. Right.
Yeah. And I want to get into the specifics of that momentarily. But first, can you give us a real quick just summary of what is the book about in general?
It's about Abby Johnson, how she grew up Catholic, but basically she was sold into the same lie about abortion. Got one, and then kind of just spent her entire life, from college and onward, I guess, trying to justify the abortion that she got by working at Planned Parenthood.
She ran a clinic or something.
She did. She was a director of a clinic, but I think kind of the amazing thing is, I mean, when you go through the story of the book, she talks about how, you know, the only days she was happy was when, like, an adoption went through. Right. Or, you know, whenever it didn't end in an abortion. But it still took her, you know, 11 years to come to terms with that she didn't agree with abortion, and that she couldn't keep supporting this organization.
Something I was going to say is, like, specifically if there is any, like, pro-choice people watching, I've always, like, tried to watch things on the other side of the spectrum to what I believe, because I like to see other arguments. I would really hope if you could have an open heart and an open mind to watch Unplanned, if you could bring yourself to, because if you're going to make an argument, you should know fully, clearly, and truly what is the other side of it. And I think Unplanned illustrates it in ways that I could sit here and try and say it 1,000 times, but that movie illustrates it a lot better than I can in a lot of ways. So I would really if you truly believe what you believe is right, then you should not have a problem watching that movie.
So this is a question that maybe I think I'm gonna pose to the gentleman in the room, which is countered the way that this is normally presented. But something that you hear a lot, especially if you're a guy who does anything in sort of the pro-life. What I've been to a number of marches. I've stood outside of the clinics. I've had bottles thrown at me, and people make all sorts of hand gestures at me and call me all sorts of names and all those things. But one thing that is pretty consistent, especially if you've got a Y chromosome, is it's not your business, man. Like, you can't get pregnant. Why are you doing? How do you respond to that?
Well, it's from an argumentative standpoint, it's really easy. It's just like, do you think the Holocaust was bad? And then they'll go, yes. And then you'll go, but you're not a Jew, nor were a Jew. Right. Considering you're talking to non-Jews. And then they'll be like, whoa. Because that's the thing, is that just because I don't directly experience something has nothing to do with whether I can have an opinion on it.
Right.
And not just that, but if what I'm speaking is true, whether or not I experienced it, that doesn't change how truthful it is.
And that is such an obviously correct answer. Yeah. But it is, I mean, I would say, I was asking it because I've heard that, I don't know, a dozen times from real people in real life. And it's always presented as this gotcha question that you just want to sort of like put your hands in the air and say like, that doesn't make any sense.
Them saying, I'm allowed to ignore you.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of...
But you know what's crazy? That if it's the other way and the mom wants to place the baby for an adoption, the man has a legal right in that decision factor.
Oh, really?
Yes, she can't just place the baby for adoption without his consent.
But she can have an abortion.
At least in Georgia, I
Right.
believe. Yeah, but she can have an abortion.
I did have something. I like to speak from the standpoint of a former baby in the womb.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
And my mother received a lot of pressure to abort me from many, many people that were very close to her.
Oh,
And
I'm so sorry.
was,
for your mom.
thank you.
Yeah.
But God spoke to her in a dream and saw me being chased by men with knives and said, not doing it. And now she's very pro-life, and I'm thankful to be here, but
Wow.
I choose to be here as a former baby in the womb. And
So you get an
today.
opinion. Yeah. No, that's great. We got to dig into that. I just want to dig into the brain of Julian Saviano on one of these episodes. You always have such interesting stories. That is amazing. That your mother, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually received her permission to talk about it beforehand.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, I've just kind of what Julian was just saying, that, as a child, as children, we didn't have like a chance to speak up for ourselves. And so these babies they don't have any say in the matter. They can't physically. And so it's kind of our jobs to try to advocate for them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's an odd thing to realize that, like, going from the thought process that, oh, I'm just trying to stop this bad thing that I'm happening, to no, what I'm arguing for is actually saving people's lives.
Right.
Like, these are real people. Millions of people do not exist right now because of the abortion industry. And that's mind-blowing. I remember I was, when I was living in Chicago, I was interning in a film studio, and I went out on a shoot one day with one of the other guys, and we were filming at a crisis pregnancy center that was right across the street from Planned Parenthood. And so we just got some footage of, because there was always a protest going on outside the Planned Parenthood, getting some footage of the protesters and of a student organization that was there protesting and trying to be not those mean protesters with like pictures of aborted babies on like signs. There were those people there, but trying to be that loving force that says, no, we want to help. That's what we're here to do. And I'd never been at a Planned Parenthood for any kind of amount of time near one. And so seeing in a random day, this was not a, high point for the abortion clinic, as far as I know.
It's like a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. But seeing how many cars pulled in and how many women, either alone or being dropped off by someone, like, staggering. Like, I was only there for maybe 2 hours tops, and I saw 7, 8, 10 people drive in. Like, that really put it in perspective for me, like how big of an issue this is on some random abortion clinic on a random day of the week.
Well, and we're about to go to break, but it is staggering when we, living our sort of sanitized lives, removed for the most part from a lot of these evils, you hear things like that. And I really do. I encourage you. I mean, if you're listening to this show and you're an adult, it'll put things in perspective if you go. And every time I've ever gone, and I've organized some, and I've just joined up with others, it's always just been a prayer vigil. It's just been praying a rosary. That's it, right? I think those people who have signs or yell awful things at the people, I think that's super disordered. I've never experienced that aside from the Right to Life March, right, when you had 500,000 people there. But it's always just been prayers, and I've been there a couple times, and there have been older women who would go up and say hello to people when they came in cars, and I've watched a few of those people have conversations and those cars not go in. It's really cool.
That's great.
But that's all I've experienced. And if you've never done anything like that, I really encourage. It is a great opportunity for some soft persecution for sure, right? But to actually have an impact. Yeah. Off air, I was saying I want to talk about the sort of the best arguments in favor of abortion. I was talking about the violinist argument. I highly recommend you check out the Pint for the Aquinas episode on the violinist argument. It is fantastic. Show notes Benny will put that in the show notes because he's the man. But definitely check out that one. But then Sadie said, we shouldn't do political arguments, right? I think she was saying like basically what I think would be best, I agree, is that we dig into the real life, real person issue. Sadie, I think you said it better, right? You're never going to win an argument. What'd you say? Can you dig back into that?
I was just saying, like, you're not going to win the argument by just shouting your side of what you believe, because if they don't believe in, life begins at conception, that kind of thing, they're not gonna change their mind.
I don't think anybody's been converted by the logic of it.
Yeah, but I think if you can have a conversation with them and really try to get to the root of what are their objections to having this baby, like what is it that's holding them back? Where's the fear?
So can you tell us what that actually looks like? Because you said that you talk to a lot of women when they come into the clinic.
Mm-hmm. I think it's asking them, like, where's their support system? What does the father feel? Is he pressuring you? Really just opening up that dialogue, because 10, 20 minutes down the line, they're going to say something that's really the reason of what's coming up.
And do you do, I don't know exactly what your role is there, what your title is there, but do you actually do any counseling? Do they get, do you move into an ultrasound room at some point? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm the clinic coordinator, so I kind of run the clinic smoothly with like donations and that kind of stuff, and clients coming in for diapers and wipes and the boutique. But I also meet with clients 3 days a week. So, just they call in. I mean, I do the intake on the phone. So if they call in, they're like, I want an abortion. Well, my objection is to just get them into the clinic to get a free pregnancy test and a free ultrasound.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So why are most of these women contacting you to begin with?
Well, pregnancy centers outnumber abortion clinics like 5 to 1.
Praise God. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And if you're going into an abortion clinic, you are paying for that ultrasound.
Okay.
It's not included in the abortion. So when they call in, it's like, okay, well, you're going to have to, in the state of Georgia, you need a proof of pregnancy to have an abortion. You also need an ultrasound to even confirm that it's in the uterus, it's not ectopic,
right?
To see if there's a heartbeat. So we just say, hey, you're going to have to pay for that anyway. You might as well just come in and get it for free.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, neat. And then when you get them in there, then you have these conversations. And do you have a rough, do you track what your conversion rate is? I don't know, like how many? Well,
so we do follow up with clients. The rate of like how many actually answer, it's pretty low, but you do surprisingly hear back from people you thought you would never hear back from.
Right.
Yeah. So we do track that. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Sure.
But I think, some people you don't hear from a week later, you might hear from 9 months later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, for a woman asking, like, because I feel like a lot of women just are told the wrong things about pregnancy aid clinics. Like, when a woman comes to you, what resources are they offered? And are they offered them only when they're pregnant, or are they offered them after as well? Because I think that's a lot of common misconceptions with it.
So you're asking, like, during pregnancy and then after?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what resources?
So mainly we are, like, basically we say, like, prenatal.
Mm-hmm.
So the pregnancy test, the ultrasound's the biggest thing. But then also, again, if they are coming to the conclusion, like, hey, I do want to parent, parenting classes, CAPS, WIC, we, like, go through all the resources available in Georgia of everything that's in the community, whether it's, like, housing instability, whether it's a domestic violence situation. We are connecting them out to all the resources.
That's awesome. Because I know a lot of women, they really just are not educated on their options. And a lot of women are also, like, this is something I think is so sad as a woman, that if I were in a position, because it happens to all types of people, you get pregnant and you don't know what you're going to do, especially because society has pushed that if you're pregnant, like, that's a sad thing, that's a bad thing, unless you're in a perfect situation. I feel like that's so counter what everyone wants to say. Like, I think it is the most feminist thing to say, you can have a baby and you can still have a job and go to college and be a successful person and a great mother. I think that's so feminist. And I'm surprised that's not pushed more. Instead, women are told, if you have a baby, you're never going to get a job, you're never going to make it through school, you're never going to have fun again. And I think that's so sad. Like, I think that's a narrative that needs to be changed.
Yeah, and I mean, you do have to understand these women are making this decision in a short amount of time with the 6-week abortion ban, and they're doing it in fear. Like, your brain is under so much stress, you are not able to logically think through, like, this is one of the biggest decisions you're gonna make by aborting your baby. Like, they're not thinking through, like, what are my parents gonna think if they find out about this 5 years from now?
Right.
Are they going to be upset that I aborted their grandchild?
Right. Oh. So where does your funding come from, just out of curiosity?
We have a lot of private donors and the Catholic Church as well. And I think there's a few other organizations. But
and then that includes everything from your pregnancy tests and ultrasounds to like your boutique. Because when I think I mentioned this last time you were on the show, my wife and I went in to the pregnancy aid clinic in Roswell, not because we were considering an abortion, but because my wife has had a number of miscarriages early on. I have a baby due a week from tomorrow, which we're very excited about. Probably this episode will have been out a week before. Will be
a week before.
Okay. So hopefully within a week of you hearing this, I will have my wonderful new fifth child, fourth baby girl. Very excited about it. But we went in not planning to have an abortion, but because they were the only place that could take us on such short notice. We wanted to see an ultrasound because she's had so many miscarriages early on. We just wanted to detect her heartbit so that we could go get blood work done and make sure everything was okay. And y'all were awesome. But I had this awkward moment in the waiting room for a few minutes where they were saying like, hey, so is this your first baby? I'm like, no, it's number 5. Like, we were pumped. We just want to make sure she's okay. And it all worked out. But I was amazed at what was there. On the way out, they even said, you can go through the boutique if you want, where it was all diapers and baby clothes.
Yeah, which is open to the public, by the way, so you can shop there, even if you're not a client. But yeah, we help anyone, no matter what the pregnancy. If you're pregnant, we will help you. Right. Like, we're not choosing which pregnant women.
Well, but I want to talk about the boutique and everything.
The
because
boutique is all donated.
Going back to pro-life, not just pro-birth. We don't just want the baby born. We want the baby taken care of. We want the mama to be taken care of. We want the baby to be doing well in a stable household. And you were talking off air earlier, Hannah, about the Catholic Church and what the church as a whole does for that. We get accused of, once again, this sort of pro-life. We just want women to make babies and shut up and whatever.
And I would say, like, there is a lot of communities who I have, like, heard them. They market pro-life in the wrong way. There are some people, I think, like, they fight that fight and then they forget about the mom afterwards. But the Catholic Church is one community. First of all, the Catholic Church is the largest donation center in the world.
Yeah, largest charitable organization. Yes. It's not even close.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
And so we push money into these programs all the time, like the Hope Center, the Georgia Right for Life does a lot of different stuff, but like the Catholic Church really does. They do bottle drives all the time where you take a bottle home, fill it up with cash, and it goes straight to like pregnancy aid clinics.
Yeah, our church does that. Our school does that. We've got lots
Catholic
of baby bottles.
Organization I've done, I mean, been a part of, has done that in some way, shape, or form. We really do. We care about the life and we care about the mother. It's not just pro-life before the baby's born.
Yeah,
and I want to follow up on that.
Please, yeah.
It's pro-life for the whole life. And just to talk about, like with the Catholic Church, we also have Catholic Charities. They help with mental health counseling for adults, not just abortion survivors or those who are healing from an abortion, but mental health counseling for anybody. There's immigration services, and then of course there's St. Vincent de Paul that helps the poor. We're constantly feeding the homeless, and elderly care. I mean, the church is a great place just for the elderly to gather and have a community. So it's really pro-life for the whole life.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad
Catholic
that you
social
clarified
teaching.
that. Right, exactly. Birth to natural death, man.
That's right.
100%. Yeah.
And I wanted to pose this question towards the men in the room, because I think this is a big problem. Is there is so many men who a lot of times when this is not like committed relationships and everything, they push women to get abortions because they don't want to take that responsibility, and I know women who have dealt with that before, men pushing that. So as men, how does that make you feel? Like, what do you think, how can we call these men to be better fathers to children?
Man.
As a father, I don't know how it... sorry. As not a father, I don't know how it feels to be one. However, I have been told that it is more. You see this child, and it is more than you could have ever imagined. Like in my favorite movie, About Time, he talks about how they never tell you about the love, but also the fear that you feel for this baby that you're holding. And I can't say for certain because I have not had a kid, but to all those men that have done that, and maybe they feel ashamed for it, or maybe they don't. Like it was a coward's way out, and it's incredibly disappointing, and because not just because of the life that you pressured another person into take, but that the opportunity that could have been because of that. How much better of a man could you have become if you had raised this child?
Yeah.
I just think that we have such a crisis of masculinity that exists in our society. We have a crisis of femininity, sure, but I do sort of historically blame most things on dads. You guys have all heard me rant about this before if you've been in my youth group or been on the show before. But I think that we have such a crisis of masculinity and such a misunderstanding of what it means to be a man in our society. And we have so many men who are running from what they desperately want in their heart of hearts, which is to be a man and to be good and to be a protector and a provider and all of these very good things, because they are scared and confused and lied to from the time they are 2 years old about what it means to be a man. And I think the problem is just, it's just so deep. I think I could spend the next 2 hours ranting about that, but
go ahead.
Sorry, okay, Ping. I think it's pretty simple. Those who are actually trying to instill those values into their boys, which I know that you and I definitely are, and you actually got to hold my youngest son today.
Yeah.
I don't know how many babies you've gotten to hold in your life, but it's quite a joy just to look into their eyes and see that. But knowing what you are doing for the world to bring boys and men like that into the world, that really hits into just the core of what it means to be a man, at least for me. And those are the families that are going to carry for generations.
Right.
I mean, the men that are being soft and trying to lead women down these evil paths, God bless you. That's kind of what I say.
Right.
One thing because I went to the March for Life for the first time a couple of years ago.
Did you stay at my in-laws?
Yeah, I did.
House?
That was cool. Yeah. But I'm fairly certain, I can't remember exactly when I started doing it, but during my own personal night prayers, I'll take a second to pray for all the women that are considering abortion.
Yeah.
And then I'll take another second to pray for all the men and the way I phrase it in my mind is all the men that have been tasked with protecting their unborn child.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That not only have they now been tasked with, becoming a father, but because this is such a prevalent issue that it really is, and I feel ashamed. Like you said, how does that make you feel that there are men that do this? And I feel ashamed to also be a man, that there are men like that out there, but that it is a challenge.
Yeah,
that they've been faced with.
I don't think you should feel ashamed of your masculinity or ashamed to be a man. I think it is. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, I don't want it to be this being a man is that's so embarrassing. I think we live in this. We have a really wonderful opportunity right now of a mission field that we have not seen in, I don't know, class of the Roman Empire, of a cultural crisis and the destruction of everything that is good, and so as the whole world burns down around us, I think it's a really exciting opportunity, actually. And
I agree.
Not to downplay these atrocities that are happening, but I do want to throw this out there, and this is to everybody. Talking about the men here while I'm mansplaining, hijacking this discussion of the pregnancy aid clinic to talk about dudes. What is, if anything, I honestly don't know the answer to this. Are there services that are provided for fathers whose children have been aborted? Do we know what that looks like? Are there mental health services that exist? Are there?
Well, so Path does, like, men can go on the retreats for Rachel's Vineyard.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry, Rachel's Vineyard is?
I think, like, Path is connected to them, but they basically are, I think, the organization that runs the post-abortion treatment, like, weekends, like weekend retreats to find healing. And they just partner with them. So men can go on those, but we also do have, like, a male advocate at our clinic. I don't know if you know about him.
Okay.
And he counsels the men.
Wow.
So he goes around to all 3 clinics and he meets with the guys.
So if I'm listening to this, or my friend or has experienced, right, he's had his child killed through abortion, or my son or my relative or something, they can call the pregnancy aid clinic to find a guy to talk to seek mental health counseling for that?
Well, so he's more of a client advocate, and he's kind of counseling them, you know, to encourage them to step up to being a dad. But he definitely would probably have the resources for that, I believe. Yeah.
Man, God bless him for doing that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Good. I'm glad that you guys do something for the dads too.
I do also want to say, like, if you ever do get that argument of, like, well, it's my body, my choice, like, he doesn't get an say in it. Because that's one of the biggest things we hear with the girls is they're like, well, I'm considering abortion because, you know, he's just not saying anything. And it's like, well, you need to put more pressure on him because it takes 2 to make a baby.
Right.
So you need to have him step up and tell you how he feels and take responsibility.
I think ladies oftentimes do not realize the immense amount of sway that they have over the men in their lives, right? Like, to the point, and as someone who, I don't know, I think my brand is a little more traditionally masculine and whatever. I talk about this all the time. My wife and I, we have a pretty traditionally ordered household. I go out and I work, and my wife stays home and handles everything domestic, and she's much more meek in personality, and I'm big and I'm loud and all of these things. And that girl, from the time I was 19 years old, can just pretty much, like, she can direct and sway and everything all day long, right? And so, ladies, please embrace that more often. The story that I won't go into it all because I've told it before on this show. The reason that my wife and I got married, the reason that I became the man that I am today, is because my meek little then 19-year-old wife told me that I was gross and she would not date me because I was making an idiot out of myself and I needed to get my crap together and try again after I'd gotten my crap together. Literally probably the most important, 45 minutes of my life while I was being a drunk idiot on a balcony.
I remember that day.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. My favorite day of class in Theology of the Body with you was the day that your wife talked to us.
Yeah.
Talked to us guys. It was great.
Ladies, you have way more sway and power in this stuff than you realize. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the problem is, like, getting into that part of the conversation, that could be a whole nother episode. But
100%.
One thing that's crazy to me is that we as a society have decided that it is an easier decision to get in bed with somebody and have sex with somebody, knowing what that can result in. That is an easier decision. I mean, that's a more common decision, even knowing that you might have to have an abortion. Like that is such an easy decision. Now it's, oh yeah, I can get in bed even if it's going to result in this. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's what's so sad to me is it should be so much more thought about before. And that's one thing with the Catholic Church is we don't just come in whenever you got pregnant and are like, oh no, like, how did this happen? Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. No, we've said from the beginning that having sex outside of marriage is something that is going to have negative effects, and this happens to be one of them, because it is a lot less common for women to get abortions when they are married and a man and a woman have decided together, okay, we're gonna be here for each other for life. Mm-hmm. So there's arguments from all the way back till now.
No, and abortion is one of many symptoms, as horrendous as it is in particular. It is symptoms of our just the collapse of our understanding of our dignity as human persons that's been going on for a very long time. So practically speaking, we could do this all day, but I want to make sure that we get through this. I want to make sure I get through this before we have to end the episode. Anybody can take this, but Sadie, I'm directing a lot of stuff towards you just because you literally do this for a living. Mm-hmm. If my friend or my sister or whoever or my girlfriend is considering an abortion, right? Mm-hmm. how do I have that conversation with her? How do I do that in a way that's not preachy, like, I don't know, Republican talking points, right? How do I have a conversation with her as a human being and say, hey, person who is good and worthy of right dignity and respect, you shouldn't do this. And anybody else can jump in.
Yeah. I mean, if that person chooses you to confide in, you should feel very blessed that they chose you. And I would thank them, be like, thank you for trusting me with this. And again, like I said, just asking them questions to try to see, like, where is their objection?
Right.
Because most of them have an objection if they're coming to someone to ask them.
What is their objection to having an abortion? You're saying you're coming and telling me this, so clearly that you don't feel totally 100% about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, if I see clients that are going to get an abortion, that they're saying, I'm going to get an abortion.
Right.
There's nothing they're wanting to talk about. But if they're willing to talk with you, you usually can find an objection that you might be able to expand a bit. And like I said, when they're under fear and they can't fully think through everything under all that pressure, it just kind of helps to have someone talk it out and be like, okay, like, this fear that you're feeling, it's not going to last forever. It's just going to be for a short time. Like, the pregnancy is going to end one way or another.
Right.
Kind of thing. So.
Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I've only had one conversation like this, but she told me that she thought she might be pregnant and that she was considering an abortion. And I instantly, my mind was like, okay, we prepared for this.
Right, exactly.
How do we do this? And I can't say I did an incredible job at it. Like, she knew I was Catholic, so she asked me with a Catholic view on it, and I think I expressed that pretty well. But as I was about to leave, I just had this thought, which was, please, like, just turn around and tell her, please don't do this. And I didn't do that. And I really regret not doing that. Yeah. It ended up she wasn't pregnant. That was the whole thing. But I think either way, she valued my opinion as a friend. Sure. But I really regret not doing that. And in those times, like, of all the times that the words you say next are crucial, like, you could be saving another person's life there. So if you do encounter that situation, I would highly encourage you to just take a moment in your head and just say, Lord, please give me the words I need to say right now. And then that's all you can ask for.
Well,
I also do want to make the distinction, like, if you're speaking to someone you barely know, that's where, I wouldn't really give your opinion. I would try to, like, unfold the conversation. But if it is someone you're close to, like, just like anyone can say, like, oh, I think you should abort, you can say, I think you can do this as a mom. Like, I think you can have a career, you can be a mom, you can achieve your dreams.
Well, I loved what you said earlier. So just the knowledge that this person wants to talk about this. Clearly, they're not 100% on this, and they're coming to me, right? That the door's already open a crack, right?
Yeah.
Just talk. You can talk. You can talk, and you can reassure them. That's beautiful. Yeah. So we've only got a couple minutes left. We're not going to finish out with popsicle sticks because this is a heavy topic. We're not going to do loaded questions, Junior. Here's what I wanted. I would love to hear positive baby stories. That's what I'm after. And I would love to hear if you've got a cool success story or anything from the Pregnancy Aid Clinic. I would love to hear that in closing.
Well, I've only been there for a couple months. So I haven't been there for a full 9 months. So I don't have any babies to. But I mean, I get to see all the babies that do come in that aren't my clients, but they come in every single day.
Praise God.
Into the
That's
boutique.
beautiful.
So I always get to hold them and see them.
That's awesome. What you got? Anybody?
Beautiful baby stories?
So you have a brand new beautiful baby.
I do have a brand new beautiful baby. We should bring him on the show sometime.
He was on. Yeah, he's going to be on next week, I think.
But just having that child make another person smile. Like I'll hold up him and he loves to smile at me. And if there's somebody behind me, I'll just like check and then I'll hold him up and make him smile. Yeah. Like, oh, that baby has the cutest smile. Children can change the world and change those around you. That's a beautiful baby story.
That is really good.
Thank you.
It's just sort of a funny baby story. But I was hanging out with my little cousin Wilder. I don't know why I gestured to the size of him, but but we were I was filming a video of him, and he was staring at my phone, and he was just making these screeching noises because that was the age he was at the time. But and then I said to stop the recording, I said, "Can you hit that button right there?" And with the sweetest voice you'll ever hear, he just said, "Sure," and then just tapped it. Like I hadn't heard him speak that effectively a single word before, but then he was just like, "Sure."
That's awesome. All right, Hannah, you got so many babies around you.
I was gonna say so I'm one of 12. For anyone who doesn't know, so if anyone understands like how overwhelming like children can be, I understand.
Right.
But one thing I would say is our youngest, he's 3 basically, and he's, oh my gosh, he's literally adorable. But when you ask him, so like all my siblings understand like, oh, say it nicely means please. Mm-hmm. So Nate will be like, I want water, and I'll be like, say it nicely, and he goes, nicely. And I think that's so cute. It's so cute.
That is precious. Ben, do you have any?
I remember, I vaguely remember, because I was also a child at this time, but one of my mom's favorite Jude stories, Jude is our youngest brother. This is a fun fact for me as well.
Oh, nice.
In this. I was bitten by a dog. My rear end.
Sounds fun so far.
And my mother is a nurse, so she was removing the stitches at the end of my having to have stitches.
Right.
And so, I'm leaned over a bed, my mother, a pair of scissors in one hand, me like trying to cut stitches out of my rear end. Mm-hmm. Jude walks in, he's maybe 4 at the time, 5, and he sees this. And he just like goes, "Don't you hurt my brother!" And like runs over to my mom and tries to get her to quit. And she will tell that story as many times as you'll let her, because she's just awesome. With that.
Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. I was the only child. I don't have any good younger sibling stories. Yeah, it's just me.
You should get one.
So I like to talk. I did during COVID though make an entire movie starring all of my children, and Moira, who's my youngest, she was maybe
it's a great movie.
I don't know, 2. Yeah, thanks. She was General Babyface, who was the commander of the Knights of Great Bravery, the KGB, and she ends up being the bad guy. Spoiler alert. But all of her early scenes are me with her on my shoulders and a jacket over us, and my hands as her hands, and it is her favorite movie, and she likes to watch it all the time. And she does in the end. She comes back, like she survives after. If you watch the end credit scene, it turns out she actually survived. So, cool. All right, guys, this has been great. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate all of our panelists. You are awesome. Showing Benny, they are not. You always rock it. Producer Ben, this has been a pleasure, guys. Seriously, it's been a blast.
This has been a great episode.
It's been deep. It's been heavy, but those are good. Yeah, occasionally.
Absolutely.
Everybody at home, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You're watching Honest to God on AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. Producer Ben,
signing off.
over and out.